Okay, so this is one I'm personally been really interested in. What's kind of like the biggest driver, like the thing that you have in your mind when it comes to like not buying something? Like if something, because obviously it comes with a big dopamine spike sometimes where you see something that you really want and you feel like you need to buy it. And sometimes it's short lived, obviously, but like what's kind of what runs through your mind when you see something like that?
Yeah, so I guess on the dopamine topic, I feel like I've almost trained myself to not behave that way. I feel like when I go and buy something, I never get like excitement out of it, which I guess is a good thing. I always kind of dread having to go out and buy stuff. Um, but I guess like the biggest driver for me is kind of like the ethics that I live by. So basically, like everything that I believe in kind of like intertwines with frugality in a sense. So, like again, being minimalist, like not wanting to have stuff obviously helps. And another big thing is like I'm really focused on like health and like healthy eating and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. Um, and yeah, if I look back to like even when I was in high school or something like that, like the things that I was consuming, for example, like now I'm at a point where I understand what I need and don't need. So it's really like of a balance of like needs and wants,
Yeah.
right? So, um, like a good example of that is drinking water. Like I see a lot of people spending like tons of money on like soft drinks, like beer, fruit juices, and all that stuff. And I look at it from like a health perspective first. Um, and I see like sugar as like you're not only like harming your wallet, but you're also like harming your health. And if you're in a country like the US, stuff like that's you're spending money to spend more money down the line treating your body for like all sorts of like diseases you're bringing on, upon yourself, right? So when I go to the store, like I don't spend like $2 here on a pop or like another like $5 here on a beer when I go out. Like sure, like a beer is once in a while is fun for like social interactions and all that stuff, but I just come at it from a perspective of what I need and not what I want.
Okay. So you're kind of coming at it with like the sense of, is this going to bring like a direct benefit to like me and my health, or like you as like a person, or like is it something you like need to be using?
Yeah, for sure. Because like again, like a lot of people like what they spend money on like actually kind of hinders their health,
Mm-hmm.
which to me is just like mind blowing. Like yeah, sure you might get like a quick dopamine hit of like great, this tastes amazing, but to me it's like it's counterproductive. Like I'd rather just have a glass of water, which is good for my health and like not giving myself like insulin resistance and like pre-diabetes and all that stuff. And obviously I need water and it's free, great. And same thing with food, like obviously you can go and eat a bunch of calorie dense food that isn't like nutrient dense, but then you have to like eat more of it, and like processed food is obviously more expensive. um so I've just trained myself to like stick to the basics and like meal prep myself, cook for myself, because then that way I know what I'm eating and all that stuff. And yeah, that just ties into like my belief of health and all that. But I found that that directly translate with me spending way less money at, like at the grocery store, and like when I'm out and about, it's like I'm not craving like a bubble tea for $10.
Yeah.
So
It's an interesting perspective. I've never heard about it talked about that way, but that is a good point. You are like a big health guy, so that makes a lot of sense. I like that actually. So yeah, if you want to, even if you can just dig down into like some more of like your values, right? Like even if it's like, I don't know, something about like books, and you're like, you don't understand why people buy books because you can just go to the library and go to the library instead, read it, and then return it for free.
yeah.
When some people like having like a book collection, so it's like it all depends on where your values lie. But that's a really good example. Kind of tied to the last question, like when you do need something or you consider something a need, how do you classify that as a need? Because our basic needs that we know is like like shelter, food, water, transportation, I guess. It depends on how you want to look at that.
Yeah.
So, like, when you go out and buy something, how do you decide if it's something you truly need, or like, it might be something you want, but it's like almost a need, essentially? Like, it's kind of blurred. Like, I'm just curious about your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I mean it's I feel like it's hard to draw the line and like really like define it in a sense, because again like what I believe might be like more of a need compared to somebody else is totally different. But at least in my perspective, like I've definitely read a lot about people saying like, if you want something, you want to buy something, wait 30 days. After that 30 days, see if you still need or want it. And then sure, go ahead and make the purchase. Like if you think it'll make your life that much better, you can justify it, then like go for it. And at the same time, like I'm not going to deprive myself from experiences just because there's a price tag on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like say I want to learn guitar, I want to like experience playing music and like learning instruments and stuff like that. Like obviously I'm not going to go top of the line buy a $4,000 guitar when I'm just learning to play. But you know, I might go on Marketplace, or I might buy like a cheap starter guitar for $100-200, see if I like it, and then further down the line, like if I'm still playing and all that, then sure, maybe I can justify getting a more expensive instrument. But like I'm not going to prevent myself from having those experiences just because it costs money.
Definitely.
But at the same time, like again, with the waiting 30-day thing, it's like if you're able to wait for, say you want a product, keep an eye on it. Maybe there's going to be a sale that comes by, and then it's like, great, time to buy. Mm-hmm. Right. But I don't necessarily like act on impulse. It's like, I need this, I'm going to go buy it. I don't care what the price is. Obviously certain things do count for that, but I just think it's smart to put more value in your money and like try to get the most out of it as possible.
Yeah.
And again, not spending it on stupid stuff. Like if you want to buy a hat, well, if you have 10 of them already, like, do you need another one?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
It's that marginal benefit, you know, that economics.
Yeah.
Of like having the extra hat. Online marketplaces like Amazon Prime, for example, is like a really steep way for people. You know, there's like no friction to buying and stuff like that. And I know you don't have Amazon Prime. Do you think if you did have it, like kind of at your fingertips with everything like preloaded, like your card information, that it would make it harder for you to be frugal? Or do you think you're at a point now where it wouldn't change anything?
Again, I think that depends on the person. Like if you've grown to be like somebody who like seeks dopamine, like I see this, like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it's like, my information's already here. I just have to press this button and it's at my door in 2 days.
Yeah.
Great. But again, for someone like me, like I would like, even like the subscription model, like I'm almost like super against that. So it depends on the person you are. Like if it makes your life easier because you buy a lot of stuff for your business or for yourself or whatever, like that makes it easier, like great. But even if I did have something like that, like I don't think, because like what's the difference between me typing in like 12 numbers and clicking a button, right?
Yeah.
I don't think the friction is really something that's like setting me apart from being frugal and not being frugal. But I know for some people it definitely is.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're far enough down that path where you can, you know, you've got that brain wiring, those neural connections kind of already in place. But like, yeah, I feel like for some people, like back in the day when we had to like go to the mall to get a pair of shoes, like you have to, you know, get in your car and like go all the way there. I know I've used that as an example in a previous video, but like it is so different now because you can literally just be like, oh, I need a pair of shoes, and then in 2 minutes have it ordered and it can show up the next morning. So it's like for some people, absolutely, it's going to be a lot harder to do that. And I'm kind of in between like you and like those kinds of people. So I'm kind of teeter-tottering there, but like at the same time, it's so much easier if you do have this like basis of like, you know, this self-discipline and like practicing that frugality first, and then, you know, maybe implementing like an Amazon Prime membership just for like your ease of consumption when you do need it. Now, this is what we've all been waiting for, and me too, actually. Do you have any like hacks for saving money on like anything like transportation, daily living, like saving money on food, stuff like that? I know you literally right before we recorded this, you came in with a coupon for bread, which was sick. So I want to learn about that.
Yeah, I mean, do you want the ethical or the unethical version of this?
Ooh, that's about to get spicy.
What do the viewers want?
Let's go unethical. We know my viewers.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm showing this mugs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it really depends. Like, I'm not telling you to go rob a bank, but I mean, if you can get away with it, go for it.
It's a good way to do it.
But I just think there's definitely like ways that you can lower your like monthly spending or whatever. You just have to like know where to look.
Yeah.
So for example, like I've never had a Netflix subscription in my life. like I'm huge into sports. Like I love watching hockey, football, and all that stuff. Never paid for a game in my life. Um, but again, you just have to know where to look. So like I know where to find movies for free. I know where to find TV shows for free. Like I have a bunch of sites to watch free hockey games. Like, I mean, yeah, sure, that might make me like a piece of shit, but at the end of the day, like I don't think these companies are really like harmed that much by me not paying them $5 a month, right?
Exactly.
So that's just like the basis of kind of like the ideology of how to go about this. And again, like I briefly touched on it. For example, for food, um, sticking to whole foods, like it's crazy how far a bag of brown rice and a pack of beans can take you, right? And that's like, if you break it down, like your meals probably cost like 50 cents to $1. Whereas, you go out for lunch, I mean, in this time and day, it's freaking
Yeah, 20, 30
16,
bucks.
$20
Yeah.
or with tips and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, again, it's just really stretching your money as far as you can go. Um, and a big thing to kind of go with that, again, it's the mentality, um, but yeah, so like just trying to save money wherever you can while simultaneously not making your life a living hell. That's kind of where I've had to find the balance.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I first started, like obviously I was on a really low salary. So a lot of times I was making my life a living hell. And I'm like, well, maybe it's not worth it, you know? So it's, yeah, again, it's drawing the line, but you know, if you're able to take public transport and you're in a city where, that's available to you, then why do you need a car? It's a lot cheaper to take the bus to work or the bus to wherever you need to go. Obviously, it is nice for something, but if you're lucky to have friends who have vehicles, then maybe, go grocery shopping with them or something and, split the gas money or something. Um, and again, housing, like, it's nice to have like a big room, like maybe getting your own apartment. Like, it is really nice and definitely good for the mental health. But like when I was starting out, like with a low income, a low salary and stuff like that, I definitely um, decided to live with like roommates and stuff like that. Obviously, it wasn't like ideal sometimes, but just the money that I was able to save in that aspect and invest rather than splurging on this beautiful like bedroom somewhere was definitely important. So again, everyone's life is different, but I think if you just look at what you're spending your money on and trying to realize what you can not spend money on and
Yeah.
save instead and find alternatives to like entertain you or stuff like that, then um, I think people should definitely look for those avenues.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of to add on to that, I just kind of randomly thought of this, but do you feel like if you were surrounded by more like-minded people that were also frugal, it would just be easier for people to kind of get into that mindset? Because obviously, like, you know how it goes, right? Like other people want to go out or they want to do something, and then you're like, no, 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 and then they start associating you with like the person who never wants to spend money and stuff like that. So, like, do you think that would be like a beneficial thing for people to seek out like other people that are frugal or people that like to not spend money as well?
Yeah, I guess two things to that. Firstly, I guess your network is your net worth. So don't, I think it's important to associate yourself with people who think the same way you do and like have like high goals and achieve stuff that like make you want to be a better person. And second of all, like a lot of times like I've been with people where it's like, oh, let's go out and like let's go grab dinner somewhere and here and do all this stuff. And I don't think you should stop yourself from doing those things. But sometimes, if we're going out for dinner and, dinner's like $30 and then everybody's getting like 5 rounds of drinks, it's like, I'm not going to stop myself from coming with you and like hanging out and like having a bunch of fun and stuff like that. But, maybe I'll eat at home before I go.
Smart. Yeah.
If we're going to a bar or a club, maybe I'll drink at home. Maybe I'll pre-drink with some friends before we go to the club,
Mhm.
right? So you shouldn't stop yourself from having fun in that sense, but there are ways where you can lower your spending.
Okay, so I got one for you, kind of related to more to like this channel, like personal finance stuff like that. So what would you recommend someone starting out? Like I know you were good at saving and you saved your money. What do you recommend for people that have maybe high levels of debt in different forms of debt, or if they, they want to start investing because they're young and want that compounding effect to kind of start taking hold. Like just curious on your thoughts on like why you decided to save instead of maybe investing or paying off your student loans, for example.
Yeah, for sure. So again, I want to stress like your network is your net worth. Because obviously like Jay here and a few of my buddies, when I was in undergrad, like they were doing econ majors and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I got introduced to the world of finance. Just being around them and understanding what they were learning and stuff like that got me into thinking about like investing and saving money and all that stuff. So I think that's really important. And again, if you're like straight out of school or something, I think the absolute most important thing is to pay down your debts. I mean, depending on the circumstance, again, like if you have like a school loan where you're not paying any interest, like don't pay it back
Yeah.
until you have to. But if you got like credit card debt or just any sort of loan, like prioritize that because you're not going to be able to get the returns anywhere else of what you're losing to interest.
Definitely.
So I made sure, like, as soon as I was out of school and had the money to clear my debts right away, because again, they're kind of always in the back of your mind at the same time. So it's good to get a fresh, clean plate, and then once that's taken care of, just really any money you get, making that money work for you, is really important. So again, like some of the jobs that I've had, like I've had to work my ass off, and like they were some of the worst jobs I've ever had, and really made me realize like the value of the money that I earned. And again, like the whole thing with like $2 earned is $1 spent.
Yeah.
So I think you just have to associate like how hard it is that you work for your money, depending on like what you do. Obviously, some people don't really work that hard, but just understand how hard you work for your money, and then make that money work for you in return. I think is important. So what I've like really understood is, again, like when you're young, any spare money you have, don't let it sitting in your checkings account where you can look at your bank account and like, oh, I have so much money, that's awesome. Instead, like invest it, put in the S&P, like buy some blue chip company stocks and let them sit and grow for X amount of years, or get a high interest savings account and let the money compound. Like I really pride myself like every month when I do like my budgets or I look at my like dividend totals for the month. I just like I'm always surprised. I'm like, to think that all this money I'm earning comes from my money. Like I didn't like, other than like signing in and like buying this stock or putting it in this high interest savings account, I didn't do anything.
It's free. Right?
It's free money.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And like I had to work my ass off in the past, and I'm glad I did. And now I don't have to work as hard because my money is just doing it for me.
You guys heard that, right? Rewind that and play that again. That's a good part. But yeah, no, that's such an important part that so many people don't think about. It's like the like immediate gratification of buying something now, but then you don't think about like the position you're in. For example, like you have like a high interest savings account that you have your stuff in, and you're earning like hundreds of dollars a month on the savings you have. And even if you invested it, right, like you're earning like thousands of dollars a year on like literally just doing nothing. You're sitting there letting it compound or whatever, and you don't need the money. So even if there's a bad year in the market, it doesn't matter. Like you're literally just sitting on it, and it's earning interest over time and compounding too. So that's such a powerful thing to motivate people as well. That even if it's like $10,000 and you're able to amass that, right? Like it's still a decent chunk of cash every year.
Yeah, exactly. You start small. Like even if you have $100, like it won't be very significant, but it's something.
It's something, exactly. And like I mean, $100 over a year at $7, you can go out and buy like probably not a meal in this economy, but you can buy something.
Half a meal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's also like I read The Psychology of Money, and I'm sure you have as well. Again, it's something that you have to like train yourself and almost trick your brain to like seek delayed gratification rather than instant gratification. Because it's something to like go buy the new iPhone. It's like, oh my God, like this is great. Like I have such a cool like piece of tech. But if you like instead aim for the delayed gratification where like 10 years from now, you wake up and you realize $10,000 you invested 10 years ago is like more than doubled now.
Yeah.
It's like, that's priceless.
It's like giving up the iPhone and then being able to buy the house later on. Right?
Exactly.
It's crazy. The compounding and just like the discipline like innate in that ability to save and be frugal. And that's definitely something I'm personally working on, and kind of that's the whole journey, of course. But yeah, it's good to see like your perspective too, because I know you're like a somewhat of an expert at it. So
Yeah, and it goes in other like aspects of life too. Like if you train yourself to always like look for delayed gratification, then it's, you know, you'll see like in the evening, rather than getting that instant hit of gratification of sitting on the couch, opening a bag of chips, putting on the movie, then maybe you'll look at other aspects of your life and reconsider and say like, maybe I should study tonight. Maybe I should go for a run and hit the gym to get that delayed gratification of 10 years down the line, I'll be healthy,
exactly.
sort of thing, right?
But even like you said, like even delayed like in the short term, right? Like it doesn't have to be like delayed 10 years down the line.
Yeah.
Like even if you, instead of getting home from work and sitting on the couch and watching a movie, like you said, you could do some work. You could go for a run, go to the gym, whatever, and then at the end of the night, you can sit down and have that gratification because you know you completed all those healthy habits you had to do anyways. So
Yeah.
it doesn't even have to be in a long term thing. So that's it's good you brought that up because that's so important to realize too. It's like it you should have treats and like rewards along the way to kind of keep you motivated too. Okay, this is an interesting one because I know like I've like people in my life and like sometimes even myself, you know, that just have expensive taste and they enjoy quality items and they often argue that okay, if I buy this thing, it'll last me 4 times as long as this cheaper thing. What's your stance on that?
Yeah, I think again, if you know, like if you're looking for a certain like new product and you know, like example like work boots.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've read a lot of people talking about like, sure, like this pair of boots is like $300, but it'll last you like 2-3 years depending on what you use them for. Or you get the cheap pair for $50, but you're replacing them every 3 months. Then break it down, which is more expensive at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Right. So again, like it's a fine line of like paying for a brand because it's a brand and it's like they're the same as like the knockoff brand, like you get the same product. And the other line being that yeah, you're just getting an actual better product. So I think you have to do a little bit of research into what exactly you're buying. And I think that's where like say like customer reviews really do come in handy. But I think that a lot of things are worth spending the money on if they are to last you a lot longer, because then you don't have to like constantly like go out and buy a new one, like look at different models, like redo the research all over again, and just like have it bought once and last you forever. Then yeah, there's definitely value in that.
It's interesting. I didn't actually think about that. Like even just the time cost of having to do that. And that's yeah, it's a good point. But yeah, like what you're saying, it's again about like value, right? It's not about like the Gucci jacket that's probably the same quality as like a Tommy Hilfiger jacket, but it's like 5 times the price, right? Stuff like that I think people kind of get lost in translation of you need quality, and they think higher end brands are always associated with quality when of course they are good quality, but you can get good quality at a much lower price.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I kind of wanted to add that like again kind of like plays into the whole mentality thing, because again like it's just all psychological, like our decision making really. But a big thing for me is I kind of value who and what I give my money to. So if I see something that in my gut feeling I'm like that's overpriced, or this person doesn't really deserve my money or whatever, right? I think that also plays like account into the whole frugality aspect of things. So for example, like a lot of times when I'm traveling, like I'll be on a beach somewhere and in like really touristy spots, you always have people like coming around asking you, hey, do you want to buy this? Do you want to come on this tour? And a lot of times it's like, wow, like I can go snorkeling with all these fish, have all my equipment, get put on a boat, get like a margarita in my hand, like life is good, but it's going to cost me $400. It's like, that sounds really cool. I'm on vacation. I'm probably only here once for the rest of my life. But I feel like at the end of the day, I'm being scammed, right? You can paint as pretty of a picture as you want, but if my gut feeling tells me that I'm being scammed, like you have to listen to that, right? So I think again, it's like where you draw the line, your personal line, and again, just like understanding, say like again, that same example, that $400, understanding how much you had to work to make that $400, right? So say, depending on your salary, like you have to take taxes into account and all that stuff. So say you work like 3 or 4 days to make that $400. Is that worth a 30-minute experience on a boat somewhere? Right?
Yeah.
So you really have to like kind of analyze a little bit like where that money comes from and like how you earned it, and whether the experience you're getting is actually worth it, or if you're just kind of being scammed out of your money, and if you're getting enough value out of it, and if there's other ways you can do it more cheaply. Maybe you can go buy, for that example, a snorkel set at a store 5 minutes down the road, and go somewhere up the beach and go see the same fish for like $15.
Literally. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's all about perspective too. Like I feel like it's also meant to be like that, again, the non-friction thing, right? Like they'll do everything for you, so they can charge these high prices. But I'm definitely on the same page as you with that. I take a lot of thought into like, especially if I'm doing something that's more expensive or buying something that's more expensive, I like make sure to think about like, is this actually the value of what I'm buying or like, getting here?
Yeah.
Because it is such a big factor, right? And one thing that I just want to add is something I've started to realize is like, you can break it down by like how much you make hourly and stuff like that. But like for me, for example, I'm in a job where I have like a fixed number of hours in my like schedule, essentially. Like I literally cannot work more than 40 hours. I won't get paid more than 40 hours.
Right.
Even though sometimes like I'm work more, work less, whatever. It doesn't matter. I always get paid that. So what I started realizing is like, okay, there might be an hourly amount that, I could spend on this. There's only a limited amount of hours. So it's like, no matter what, I'm capped. So that's another thing that kind of, helps me be a bit more frugal, is like just thinking about that, like being like, I can't create more hours in a month. So I have this set amount of money. And then, obviously there's other income sources and stuff, but just thinking about the day job specifically is like, that's it. That's all you got. So it's another good way to look at it if you ever.
Yeah, honestly. And at the end of the day, like if you do think about it that way, like make better decisions.
Yeah.
Like if you're working a 40-hour week and then you go out to the club all night and you're buying everybody drinks and doing bottle service, it's like you just worked 40 hours in a week, you grinded, you did all this stuff, you like in most cases hated your life for 40 hours. And then you go and enjoy it for 3 hours and then your paycheck's gone.
Yeah. It's like all of that life that you just gave up, like 40 hours of your life. Like you only have, if you're lucky, 90 years on this planet. Mm. And like most of that is spent either sleeping or working, and you're just pissing it away essentially.
Yeah. Like, I mean, for some people, maybe it's better to not look at it in terms of money, but in terms of time.
Exactly.
Maybe some people understand it better in that aspect. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, whether it's money or time, if you're not spending it on the right things, you're wasting it.
100%.
Right.
Definitely, man. All right, this has been sweet. Do you have anything else you want to add before we close out with this video?
I don't think so. Honestly, just like stop spending money and invest.
Yes.
Compounding interest is actually like insane. Again, if you start doing it and you look at the numbers, it's only going to motivate you to keep going, because every month it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until one day, hopefully, you're rich.
The snowball. Exactly.
Exactly.
And if you haven't yet, play around with compound interest calculator. It's pretty crazy. If you plug in, if you add a certain amount every week or every month, and then you have like this certain amount, you can go 40, 50 years in the future and you'll probably shit your pants, because it's pretty crazy.
Honestly, pay yourself first.
Sweet. All right, Derek, thanks a lot for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, Jay.